and welcome to the GB4 Championship here at Donington Park. Now, it's a lovely day here on the border of Leicestershire, Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. However, last time at Silverstone, the Saturday was torrential rain, and in fact the racing got cancelled, which means the first race this weekend is actually the first race from Silverstone a few weeks ago. And Lewis McGlade, our commentator, is here to talk us through just the technicals of this, because you know, some of the new drivers we've got on the grid, some of the drivers that are returning from the first round at Oulton Park won't be able to compete, and we've got a new driver on the grid who won't be able to race until tomorrow, and there's tyres and there's everything to discuss.
Yeah, obviously it's effectively like a delayed round 4, so it's still classified as round 4 in the standings. Effectively what's going to happen, it's going to be the qualifying order from Silverstone, so the only drivers that are eligible from this race are those that did the qualifying, that were eligible for the race back in Silverstone. So anyone new, they're not eligible for this race. Each driver is given an extra half set of tyres, so extra 2 tyres per car, and that's going to help them through the weekend. So they do this race, and then effectively it's back to normal.
Excellent stuff. So yeah, this first race will be the first race of the weekend and the first race from a few weekends ago. It will also be preceded by the first race here at Donington later on today. Does that make sense? I think it just about makes sense. There were 2 exciting races though back at Silverstone on the Sunday, and let's just remind ourselves what happened.
After round 4 on Saturday was cancelled due to wet weather conditions, highlights from round 5 of the GB4 Championship partnered by the BRDC will get underway with drama on the start. Konzo as a staller on the grid, he would drop to the rear of the field along with Hotchins, big wheel spin on the race start. Tom Mills though from pole position would hold on to the race lead into the first corner. Colin Queen from the front row of the grid would drop back behind Cooper Webster, and Fairbairn was on the attack trying to get his KMR Sport car up into 3rd position. As they head through Maggots Beckers and Chapel, Colin Queen was just able to hang on in his Vortec car to 3rd position, but there was drama behind as Lee would spin around in his Evans GP car and would come to a stop, but unfortunately retire from the race. Dylan Hodgson as well having a couple of problems. His front wing came off going through Maggots Beckers and Chapel. He would rejoin at Chapel without the front wing and have to struggle his way back around the circuit, also with some slightly wet tyres. Colin Queen was attacking for the podium, going down the inside, grabbing 2nd position from Cooper Webster, the number 62, making its way through with a great move into Stowe. They all came short of this driver though. Tom Mills out of the final corner, up towards the line to take his 2nd victory of the season, his 4th overall in GB4, ahead of Colin Queen and Cooper Webster. And after this, it would be on to the reverse grid race where it was all Vortec on the front row of the grid. Once again, Jason Konzo having struggles on start, as was Dylan Hodgson at the back of the field. Sid Smith had a fantastic launch from 3rd position, but unfortunately Ruhan Alba completely misjudged where Sid Smith was going through the middle, and unfortunately Sid Smith would be out of the race with a front left broken suspension. A very big shame for a driver that had an excellent start to this race and was thinking about higher aspirations. Harry Reynolds was sending one around the outside of Ruhan Alba as they head down towards the Stowe corner. Fairbairn as well having to deal with a little bit of pressure from behind. Reynolds would go around the outside to take over the race lead, and then McNeely down the inside of Fairbairn, getting squeezed off just a touch on the exit of Abbey. He would straight line it, same with Konzo as well, going over the runoff on the left-hand side. Lee would go for a spin, would come to a stop, and would unfortunately stall the car. This would bring a safety car out of the race, and once we got back racing, Reynolds was leading from Alva and from Fairbairn in what was a very tight race for the podium. Tom Mills was straight around the outside of his teammate in the KMR Sport squad, and the 21 would take over the 3rd position on the podium. Fairbairn dropping back into the clutches of Cooper Webster, and once Webster went for a move around the outside of Luffield, Fairbairn misjudged it slightly, the pair of them making contact out into the gravel trap, and Webster out into the barrier. Once he'd hit the barrier and came to a stop, his car was stationary. The safety car would have to come out again. The race would restart just at the end as Harry Reynolds would come out the final corner and take his first victory in the GB4 Championship ahead of Ruhan Alba and Tom Mills. Championship standings then after a couple of weekends of racing. Tom Mills at the top and a race winner around the Donington Park circuit, the first of 2 visits to here. He's ahead of Liam McNeely and Harry Reynolds, who's become a recent race winner in the championship, ahead of Colin Queen, Fairbairn, Webster, Irfan, Burgoyne, Clifford and Kilcarney down towards the back end of the top 10. But Mills, with all of that work to do, he's got a comfortable margin and just needs to focus on holding it. For those behind in the championship, you've got Ruhan Alva, Jason Konzo, who's no longer with us in the championship after a decent effort back in Silverstone, Dylan Hodgson, Sid Smith, Christian Lester and Thomas Lee, the 16 drivers that have taken part in GB4 so far.
Well, I'm now here in the garages with the other man you heard on the highlights just there, Piers Pryor, and after 2 exceptional races at Silverstone, we're back at Silverstone, technically, for this first race, and it's a very unique situation, isn't it? Because, you know, the drivers have prepared for Silverstone back then, it didn't happen, they've been doing all their sim practice for Donington, and now the race is happening. It's just very confusing.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing and a bit of a unique situation, of course, because of the weather, and you know, Lewis has just gone through all the ins and outs of that. But the drivers are just going to have to get on with it. It's a bit of a strange situation that some of the drivers will be racing in this first one, and then some other drivers will join in for Donington race number 1 later. But yeah, the drivers are just going to go out there, race their best as possible, and hopefully have a good weekend on another lovely day here in at Donington Park.
Well, I guess the good thing is that the drivers will have prepared for Donington, so you know there'll be drivers out there that love Silverstone and wish they got an extra race at Silverstone, but that's just how it is. Tom Mills will start on pole position, Colin Queen second, with Cooper Webster starting P3. We're just going to try not to get run over by Harry Reynolds' car. Harry Reynolds, of course, winning that final race last time out at Silverstone, qualifying very well for the first race technically at Donington later on, which we'll talk about in a bit. Tell me about this track though. You know, Donington is an iconic motorsports venue. All of these drivers that come from different countries, they know Silverstone, they know Donington due to its heritage. What kind of track is it from a driver's perspective?
It's another fast circuit, a bit like Silverstone in the fact that the minimum speed is pretty high and the average speed is pretty high, but it's got some very unique characteristics, a lot more undulation than we saw at Silverstone. We've also got the last sector, which has got the 2 hairpins, so definitely some opportunities for overtaking. Silverstone, of course, provided some great racing. I'm looking forward to more of the same this weekend.
Excellent stuff. Well, that's what Piers has to say about it, but let's look at the specifics of the racetrack here at Donington Park.
Well, to Leicestershire and just about at the Derbyshire border as we head to the 2.5-mile circuit of Donington Park. It was opened back in 1931 and is one of the oldest circuits in Europe. It is the oldest circuit in the United Kingdom. It's still in use. An absolutely fantastic venue, full of history and full of challenging corners. Big overtaking opportunities in the likes of Redgate, McLean's, Coppice, the Foggett ES, Goddard's, etc. And of course, for the brave, down into the old hairpin. The Wheatcroft Straight is the start-finish straight up towards Redgate and then down this enormous hill, 2.5 miles in length, but so much elevation. You get a real good look of it here as we come down the hill, through the Craners, through the old hairpin, and then we begin that climb all the way up through Starkey's Bridge, Schwantz Curve, up towards McLean's. It is a fantastic circuit for racing and certainly one that will challenge all of our drivers this weekend.
We're down here at the KMR Sport awning and we're here with pole sitter Tom Mills. Strong qualifying, but it's not all been plain sailing this weekend. Tell us about some of the struggles you've had.
Yeah, so in the last session yesterday we had a crack in the bell housing and a crack in the block of the engine, so we had a big oil leak and that to come in. So overnight the boys had to change the engine and the bell housing to an engine we don't know how great it is, but in that session it seemed to be all right. The guys did a mega job, and big thanks to them for working late last night. And yeah, the car was back on rails, so yeah, I can't thank them enough.
Big effort from the team, of course. Just put into context how much work goes in behind the scenes when something like that happens unexpectedly.
Yeah, it's just like you said, it was so unexpected. It had been running all fine, and then right on the last session it went wrong. So it wasn't ideal. Normally when you change an engine you have an install check, but obviously we were going straight into quality, so we couldn't do that. But yeah, we left the track at 11 last night, so it wasn't too bad, but it was still pretty late. And there's so much change, we weren't sure whether we'd make it, whether we'd have any issues. But yeah, unfortunately at the end of that session we had a push rod bend for some reason, so I didn't manage to finish the session. And it was a shame because I was just gone purple on that lap. I'd just gone purple on that lap when it let go of the old hairpin. So yeah, only the one pole from this session, but still the pace is there.
And it's not just the time and the effort from the boys, but also it's, we know you run on a budget here at KMR Sport. It must be quite expensive as well.
Yeah, we're only just here for this round, so knowing that for the next one I'll need to buy an engine and the bell housing, it's really going against me. So I don't know if I'll be back. It's another nail in the coffin really of the season. It's a long season, and to have issues like this early, really, it's really not ideal. So yeah, it's not good when we're also on a budget.
Yeah, of course, but the car clearly went well in qualifying for Donington Race 1, but John caught up with Colin Queen, who's second on the grid. Let's hear from them.
So Colin, this is a very unique position. It's the first race of the weekend. It's the first of two first races of the weekend. And this is actually the first race of a few weekends ago at Silverstone, but we're actually at Donington. Does that make sense?
No, not really, but it is how it is. It's good that it turned out to be this early on for the makeup race. So yeah, no, we're looking forward to it, definitely. The team and I have done a really good job, and it's unfortunate that we didn't get to race in the rain in race 1 back at Silverstone, but we'll see how we can do.
Well, you start on the front row of the grid, P2 for this race, so it's not a bad position to be. Obviously, you know, good weather as well, and you've shown some great pace in the testing days so far this week.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we just basically just building throughout the last 2 days. So, no, we're in a good position at the moment, and you know, we're hoping for some wins this weekend. So, yeah, P2 is not a bad place to start.
Not at all, not at all. And it was obviously, you know, a good weekend for you at Silverstone with a second and a fourth as well. So, you know, coming into this weekend, you get into grips with this GB4 car with this third race weekend now. So you must be hoping for more of the same.
Definitely, yeah. It's just, you know, as I said before, building every single session really. And you know, the more I get used to it with the car, just finding those very fine details on the track. You know, the more capable I will be in the races and the more consistent I'll be. So yeah, that's what we're looking for this weekend and in this race.
How important here at Donington is the qualifying and getting the track position from the very start?
Yeah, it's very important. You know, the draft will be very important. Is very important quality, and you know, there's a lot of places to overtake, and but you know, you want to be out front as always. So yeah, no, it's quite, you know, how you want it as a driver. You can want to be out front and drive away, or you want to, you know, stay a little bit back and play the long game in the race.
Looking at, you know, things away from the track, I know you've been very, very busy with school, and you're kind of in a unique position because you're doing it remotely with an 8-hour time difference.
Yeah, no, it's a bit hectic at the moment. It's the last couple of weeks of school, and you know, we have a couple of, you know, these two races in the very short time frame. So it's a bit hectic at the moment, but you know, I'll be fine.
Do you think that later in the season, once that kind of schoolwork is out of the way, you've got more time to focus on, you know, your racing, and you haven't got that distraction, that actually that'll be a huge help to you? Because, you know, as much as we see the sort of physical nature of driving these cars, also the mental side of things is huge. And obviously, you know, being a young guy, you've got to sort of learn how to balance all these things. You know, you've got to learn how to do life, basically.
Yeah, no, this is the most hectic year so far. You know, having to balance training and on track work as well as school is difficult, but you know, I think I've managed it quite well. So as soon as I get that out of the way, it's all upwards from there.
Okay, well, you're starting second on the grid for this first race this weekend, which is the last overlapping race, the first race from Silverstone last time out, and we'll hope that you get a good qualifying in for when we start doing racing at Donington, even though all the races here are at Donington. Still makes no sense, does it?
No, it's all right.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
So Caitlin, you're here supporting Dylan all the time, but you're actually a bit more involved than just being a sister.
Yeah, that's correct. So I'm team coordinator of the team. So my job's to get everyone in the right place, right time, and make sure everyone's happy. So we have a bunch of like apprentices that are with us. So people from JCB college, there's people from universities that come and help us. So I'm in charge of them as well, to make sure they're all happy and safe and smiling, and yeah, great.
It's a very important role, and you've got to be very organised. We heard you know, the unique way that your team is run from your dad at the first round at Donington Park, but you also deal with some of the more marketable side of things. You do the social media, and you're studying, and I believe you finished soon, marketing at university.
Yeah, so I'm doing creative advertising, so it's based on every advertising you see around here. So anything to do with social media, banners, everything you can imagine. So my role is to do social media with this as well, which is hard with uni, but I finish on Monday, so we're all ready to get on it and get ready.
Excellent. I mean, it's going to be a bit of a celebration at the end of the weekend. I think we've seen, you know, progress from Dylan, certainly from Donington Park going through Silverstone and now here at Donington. It must be a kind of nice moment for you as a very family-based team to watch progress, you know?
Yeah, so that's what we're here for this year. We're here for the, you know, the progress, the team to bond together as well, which is really important to make things work. We have had a few slip-ups, but it hasn't stopped us doing well. And, you know, the thing is, we need to make sure that we're making the progress, else we're never going to get anywhere. We're never going to collect the data we need. We've got nothing, so we need the data, which is why we're here today testing, and, you know, over the weekend it'll be great.
Now, we've got a number of other teams that have got family members all working together. What's the dynamic with the family? Because you can spend a bit too much time around your family. Is that something you've had to deal with?
Yeah, so that was a bit last time, like we had a bit of not tension, but everyone got a bit heated. But it's all about being family, you know. We have to prep the car together, we have to be at a race meeting together, we live together. But we have got some family from Australia here joining us this weekend. They've made their trip here to come and watch, so yeah, I'm sure they'll be really excited to see, and I'm sure everyone will see them around the paddock as well.
Yeah, well, they've chosen a great weekend, some great weather ahead here at Donington. We'll let you get on. Best of luck this weekend as we see Dylan continuing to make strides as you get that data, and enjoy your celebrations on Monday when you finally kick uni to the curb.
Thank you so much.
Let's ride around the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit on board the Fortec car of Colin Queen. The downhill run to turn 1 of Redgate. Using all of the road on the left-hand side, you'll see he uses the pit exit to open up the entry. Down to 4th gear, quite a fast apex here, and watch out for track limits on the exit, as we now have a long run down to the old hairpin, through Hollywood on the right, just staying right, trying to minimise any steering input, left to the Craner curves, keep it left, to open up the entry into the old hairpin very fast, down just 1 gear, all the curb on the entry, all the curb on the exit. We now rise up through Starkeys, over to the right-hand side, just setting ourselves up through Schwantz for a good entry into McLean's. McLean's is off camber and on the crest of a hill, so can often push you wide, as we've seen Colin's done that time. Then using all the curb on the left-hand side to open up Coppice Corner. This is a long exit here, so trying not to run too wide. And now we have the long run down past the exhibition centre. All we have to think about now is the braking point for Fogarty, which is a very, very fast and bumpy chicane. Braking down 2 gears, 4th gear, 1 apex, 2 apexes, 140 kilometres an hour through there, and then just 2 more sharp corners to go. The first is the Melbourne hairpin, braking downhill very late, down to 2nd gear, late apex, for a good run out of the corner, trying to minimise wheel spin. Car looks planted through there, Fortec doing a good job on the setup. And the final corner, Goddard's again off camber, blind on entry, trying to hook the curb on the inside if you can, slightly missing it this time out, and then a good exit out of the last corner to finish our lap of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit.
Well, it's nice to have a nice lit up assembly area. There was a marshal just waving behind our cameraman Ben there. I don't know if we're standing in potentially a really bad place, but there we go, we'll just roll with it. Yeah, obviously we talked earlier in the show about Silverstone and that first day and how it was washed out, and this is the first race from Silverstone, so it's nice to see that we have this glorious sunshine here at Donington. Something I wanted to ask you earlier, Piers, that I forgot to, is the weather here. I mean, you know, when does the sort of heat make a real difference to, you know, these types of cars? Because it's like, let's look at a live. It's 19 degrees-ish, which means
lovely.
What's the track temperature going to be like, do you reckon?
Oh, I don't know. I imagine somewhere in the sort of the high 20s, maybe low 30s, because the sun's been out all morning. But track temperature is more sensitive for these cars, I think, than air temperature in general UK temperatures. We don't tend to go above 30, huge amount. Everyone at home knows that. But yeah, the higher the track temp goes, just the easier it is to get the tyres in. I mean, we were watching qualifying earlier on just from up there, and everyone sets their fastest lap pretty much on the last lap, because in these GB4 cars, it takes a long time to get the heat into tyres completely, get the tyres group, you know, sort of properly in and feeling like they've got as much grip as they can possibly have. So yeah, it'll help the drivers feel a bit more comfortable right from the outset.
Yeah, we heard from Colin Queen, keep calling him McQueen. I'll get there. Colin Queen earlier on, and you were watching with me on the balcony for qualifying, and actually you were saying that you can kind of tell who's going to put in a good lap from how they approached the first turn here at Donington, and Colin was one of the drivers that looked, you know, pretty much on the money there, and it reflected, you know, with him doing well in qualifying. Obviously, you know, this qualifying here is from Silverstone, but certainly around this track, he's, you know, one of the drivers who's looking pretty good, starting P2 behind Tom Mills. Yeah, of course, Colin's been fast at the previous rounds, but we had a nice vantage point over the entry to Redgate, and you can see the attitude of the cars going through the corner. Redgate's quite a unique corner in a certain way, because there's not many corners which are sort of over 90, almost sort of like a hairpin, but it's a very long radius, so the minimum speed is pretty high. I mean, they're only going down 2 gears from 6th to 4th, I believe, some of the drivers through Redgate, but you know, you carry too much speed in there, it's easy to either understeer through the middle or oversteer, and trying to get the braking completely perfect is such a fine art. And normally if you can get that corner right, it shows that you're in tune with the car and the circuit. And it looked like Colin Queen was fast as well, also of course, got there in the end, Tom Mills, who ended up with the overall pole position, so he'll be pretty happy with that too. Yeah, definitely. So, you know, just to clarify, you know, the grid here was set from Silverstone, but obviously we're racing here at Donington, so a little bit confusing. Yes. I'm going to walk behind you, Piers. We're going to go over here to Liam McNeely and see if we can have a quick word with him, because yesterday, you know, we watched the practice on a Friday, and he had a pretty big shunt which actually ended the last practice session, so we'll just see if he wants to have a quick word with me. How are you doing today? Everything good with the car after what happened yesterday?
Yeah, I mean we had a bit of a failure yesterday. I mean yeah, component failure. So yeah, the boys have done a mega job to sort of get the car back ready, and yeah, we should be hoping to move forward in today's race.
And you're feeling good about how things are going here at Donington so far after a couple of days of testing?
Yeah, I mean our pace has been good. So yeah, I mean quali was a bit of a I mean it wasn't the best, and yeah, I hope to build on that and hopefully go forward in the races.
Absolutely, and you know, obviously with this being the first technical race from Silverstone, what's your plan going into that first corner?
I mean, I just want to keep it clean and hopefully I can get through the first corner unscathed, and yeah, hopefully put some moves in and see if they work out.
Perfect stuff. We'll let you carry on there, and under your umbrella, Liam McNeely there with Fox Motorsport, and Dad Paul just behind looking on very intently. I mean, should we grab a word with him?
Yeah,
he looks like he wants to chat to us. I'll let you stand there. We saw yesterday that the little incident that he had towards the end of that session. In fact, I think it ended the session. He says the car's all good. It must be a worrying moment as a team boss, but also as a parent.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock. Luckily, we had a friend who was on the corner taking some photos, so he was quickly on the phone and said that Liam had gone off. He's out of the car and he was totally fine. So that was a bit of a relief. But yeah, it's always a bit of a shock and a bit of a worry when the red flags come out and you want to make sure all the drivers are safe.
Yeah, and to be fair, you were there very, very quickly on your scooter, yeah. So nice to know everything's all good. We just heard the whistle, so we'll let you get on. Paul McNeely there from Fox Motorsport, Liam's dad, and also the team principal. And I have to say, he did get there incredibly quickly because it is quite a little way around to where he had that little accident, but it's all good now. And well, the cars are about to go out now, so it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens with Tom Mills, because Tom Mills' car, as he told you a little bit earlier on, has had a lot of work done on it. Does that worry you as a driver, Piers, when you have had so much work done to the car that, a tiny little mistake from a mechanic or perhaps even a component failure can ruin the day?
Well, Tom's had a lot of work done on the car, but as a driver, you trust your team, you have to. You can't be in the back of your mind thinking, oh, is it going to break down? But of course, we know there's been a few bits and pieces that have been working on the background. He's more probably thinking about, I hope this engine gets to the end of the race, I hope it's all good and it has the power, because we saw last year, if everything's not quite set up right, it can definitely hamper your performance. But that's it, all the cars on circuit, all new tyres, so let's see how this race goes.
Just before
actually, Dylan Hodgson's having some issues.
Well, it looks like we have some problems behind us here. I was just going to say, before you scoot off, Piers, you've got the power of two wheels to get back to the commentary box. As a driver here at Donington Park, what is going through your mind? If you're on the front row like Colin Queen is, for example, what's your plan going into that first corner? What would you be doing?
Well, I think pole position's on the right-hand side, if I'm not correct. It might be moved. They resurfaced the circuit over the winter, but you can overtake into the inside and the outside of the circuit. So Colin Queen, if he's on the left, you got to look for going around the outside potentially.
Side. Perfect stuff. Well, we're here at Donington Park. This is technically the first round from Silverstone. It all makes sense. Either way, we've got an exciting GB4 race coming up. Let's go racing here at Donington Park.
Isn't that a bit more like it? The weather is absolutely perfect here in Leicestershire, just on the Leicestershire-Derbyshire border, as round 4 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, is rolling into action. And yes, I did say round 4. I know you've heard Jon Jackson and Piers prior talking about this a little bit. This is effectively the first race from Silverstone that was never run courtesy of bad weather, replaying for you here at Donington Park. The order is what they qualified back in at Silverstone, and it was where Tom Tom Mills took pole position ahead of Colin Queen. On the second row of the grid, it was Cooper Webster taking yet another third place in the qualifying session, with Jeremy Fairbairn, one of the drivers competing for the victory back in Donington Park, starting from fourth. Liam McNeely, second of the championship, starts from fifth position alongside Harry Reynolds, a race winner back in Silverstone a few weeks ago, starting from sixth place. In seventh, it's Jack Clifford. Sid Smith, who had frustrations on the race start back in Silverstone after contact between himself and a couple of the Fortec cars sent him out of the race. He'll start this one from eighth. In ninth place on the grid, it'll be Kulkarni along with Ruhan Alva, starting from that 10th position. Of course, they reversed back onto the front row of the grid in that reverse grid race back in Silverstone. Harry Burgoyne Jr. will start from 11th position with Dylan Hotchin in 12th. And on the final row of the grid, it'll be Thomas Lee for Evans Grand Prix. Now, of course, whilst they've done all their preparations and qualifying and such back in Silverstone, and this is where the order is from, we are not racing at Silverstone. We are racing at Donington Park. They've already done their practice. They've already done their qualifying for the races that will follow up. And it is going to be a long weekend for these drivers. 4 races, 2 here on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, and there is Dylan Hotchin's car. We saw them struggle to get this car going away. I am now joined in the commentary booth by Piers Pryor. Do we have an update as to what has happened to that car?
No, I didn't find out what happened to that car before I left, and maybe we'll find out after the race, but it's disappointing because we know that's a family-run team. They work very hard to get the car on the grid, to get the budget together, and it's hopefully they can get out in this race even if it is from the pit lane.
Certainly so. Well, we can see them all getting some heat into their tyres. I'm going to very briefly touch onto the tyres topic because it is an interesting one for this weekend, being a slight change from how we've previously run it. Normally, the way tyres work in GB4 is that they'll get 6 tyres, or a set and 6 tyres, or a set and a half of tyres through the weekend. Now, with the addition of the extra race, each driver that is taking part in this race, and then only the entrants from Silverstone can take part in this race, and they get an extra half set. So they get an extra 2 tyres, taking their allotment up to 4 complete sets of 4 complete tyres for each of the 2 sets. It is a little confusing, but you know, they're trying to be as fair as possible. These drivers taking this, they're doing an extra race. They don't want to do the extra race without getting anything extra on tyres. It looks like Hotchin might be getting back in the car. Yeah,
it looks like they've taken the seat out to get her something, and Hotchin's ready and waiting to jump back in. He wants to make sure he gets to the start of this race if at all possible. That's going to be a couple of minutes away at least, with both side pods off and the seat not in. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like Dylan Hotchin's going to make the start of this race, but I can see out the comms box window Tom Mills, our pole sitter, is lining up on the inside of the grid. Second place on the outside is, of course, Colin Queen, and then third place Cooper Webster following closely behind in the Evans GP car.
Indeed, including the pole position that he's actually taken for the race later on today. This will be his 4th of 5 pole positions in 2023 rather, of the GB4 Championship partnered by the BRDC. You can see it's quite toasty on the race circuit as we're getting ready to go racing here in round 4 of the GB4 Championship partnered by the BRDC, and that race down towards the first corner is underway. Tom Mills making his way through. It's a decent launch from him. Colin Queen getting closed in a little bit by Cooper Webster, whose second phase of the race start was not particularly great. Tom Mills will have the whole shot down into the first corner at Redgate, and as they pass their way through, it's Fairbairn down the inside trying to hang off Harry Reynolds, who's going to go out wide. That's one of the KMR Sport cars, I believe.
Is that Jack Clifford potentially going wide into the dropping back to the bottom of the field? I actually thought that Liam McNeely might have had a slight jump start. He's definitely had a good launch, so we'll have to see maybe potentially a replay for that. But Colin Queen keeping the pressure on Tom Mills. He's looking left, looking right.
This is looking fantastic for Colin Queen, who will start tomorrow's race in the morning from pole position. He's looking fantastic this weekend. He is trying to put pressure on Tom Mills, the championship leader. He's looking for the up and under. He's looking super fast at the moment. That number 62 red and white Fortec machine going to the outside as they head through Coppice, throwing it through the corner as they head onto the Starkey straight. They're heading down towards Fogarty's now, and it's all about whether that number 37 behind of Cooper Webster can potentially get himself into the mix, whether the 62 can find his way around the outside. Right now he's going to back out of Tom Mills as they head through the Fogarty S. A bit of slide though, but Tom Mills is under an awful lot of pressure.
McNeely having a slide through the Fogarty S as well. It will leave him under pressure from the cars behind, but now Queen looking to the outside. Webster now under pressure from, is that Fairbairn?
Yeah, it is. Certainly so. Got Fox Motorsports as well down the inside. That is Liam McNeely and Sid Smith, by the way, making a little bit of progress. The Elite Motorsports car there dropping back quite a few positions. Unfortunately, that one should be Harry Reynolds, who's now trying to work his way back past and defend from the likes of Kulkarni and Alva. He's sending it down the inside of Sid Smith as he certainly goes in there. That's the number 17 on the inside of Harry Reynolds. You've got the 99 on the outside, that very bright green highlighted Fox Motorsports car of Sid Smith. He'll have the inside line for Redgate though, and is going to have to defend from the Elite Motorsports car behind.
Yes, Harry Reynolds having a look for a dummy up the inside into Redgate, but Sid Smith being very aware, covering it off. And Reynolds, you saw him go up the inside of Goddard's at the last corner. It's actually quite a hard place to get a move done, because if you hold it around the outside, you then have the inside for turn one, and Reynolds not making that place up, and is now under pressure from the Fortec car and the white, red and blue of Alva.
Yeah, certainly so. An expected 9-lap race, of which we've already completed one of those in the allotted 18 minutes. Actually, it might be 10 laps by the end of the proceedings. So it's going to be fairly tight for some of these drivers. They've got to look after their tyres a little bit. They've got to focus on getting these effectively through 4 races throughout this weekend. Of course, taking those switches. However, they want to play the strategy throughout things. You can see in the background there, that's McNeely trying to get past Fairbairn. McNeely on the left-hand side, the number 48 Fox Motorsports car, and already that must have been a brilliant drive off of Coppice, as he's already cleared his way through into 4th position before they get down to the Fogarty S.
Yeah, Coppice is actually often a lot easier to overtake on the exit than it is on the entry. It's very short braking, as we see moves in the background.
Alva down Kulkarni.
Yeah, Alva taking Kulkarni there, and then Kulkarni looking to get back on his teammate, but not quite. And Harry Burgoyne Jr. in the Graham Brunton racing car, the GBR Racing, is looking for another position, looking for... Dylan Hodge is now going to join right at the front of the field. He's going to be a lap down, well, a couple of laps down, but he's going to be right in front of our leader, Mills and Queen, so hopefully he stays out the way so he doesn't interfere with the lead battle.
Yeah, I think so. Reynolds just got down the inside of Sid Smith. McNeely got dropped actually back behind as a massive shadow of plane goes over us going into turn 1 here at Redgate. Harry Burgoyne Jr. on the attack as well. So there's been a couple of changes here, and Fairbairn, whilst battling out with McNeely, has lost out roughly 1.5 seconds to Cooper Webster, who's in 3rd position at the moment. 0.8 of a second separates the top, the top 2, and then second back to 3rd position, and then a large gap back to 4th as we're watching this battle for that 4th position. Once again, McNeely on the rear end of Fairbairn as they're wrestling their way through McLean's up towards Coppice. You can see Reynolds defending in the background. He's had to do a fair amount of defending. He didn't actually have to do too much at Silverstone when he cleared off for a race victory, but I think he might be out wide.
Yeah, that was a big slide on the entry to Coppice there from Reynolds, but potentially dropping a wheel on the curb, and that meant that his exit was poor, and he's now under pressure, of course, from Sid Smith, who's just managed to get past, so that'll be disappointing for him as we see, Hodgson going wide and going over those curbs. You can see those blue curbs, they are metal and bolted to the track, and if you hit one of those like Hodgson did, it can often damage the floor or even the tub of the car, and it's very uncomfortable as a driver as we're going almost 3 wide into the Melbourne hairpin.
Yeah, got to watch out making contact between teammates. Of course, Max Maserati, who is the driver that's doing some coaching for Harry Burgoyne Jr. there in the background of that number 68. He'll remember contact between teammates in that corner. He got sent off by his teammate Megan Gilks in the final race of last year. Now seeing the Fortec cars getting quite close, I'm pretty sure Ollie and Richard Dutton will be watching it through the... To be fair, I've not actually seen Richard Dutton in the paddock. I've definitely seen Ollie in the paddock area today, as we'll see once again that number 15 that belongs to Kulkarni sending it down the inside of Alva. These two Fortec cars, they're not separated by very much, are they?
No, they were almost inseparable in qualifying this morning for the first Donington race, which is going to be later on today. And again, in the race, they're showing very, very similar pace. The two drivers running the Indian flag on their car. Of course, their teammate, Colin Queen, is actually closing the gap at the front, now down to 7/10. It was as far as almost a second. Queen going fastest in sector 1 again as we go and look at the inside of McLean's. That is a bold move.
That was very scary, because the thing is, as you come out of McLean's, I mean, you'll know this, that the track surface kind of like banks into the inside of McLean's, and as you come out of it, the rise up on the inside can typically push the front end of the car out towards the outside. You get a lot of understeer on the exit, and the ease of car contact through there is wow. I mean, I've taken a few drivers out in my time on sim racing through that corner.
Yeah, McLean's is definitely one of these unique corners where you sort of start the corner uphill and slightly, I don't think it's slightly banked in, but it's uphill. Then as soon as you get to the apex, no, I don't think so. And as soon as you get to the apex, the sort of the crest of the hill stops, or you get to the crest of the hill and then it's almost off camber and falls away at the exit. It's so easy to run wide there, and that's one thing the drivers will have to consider throughout this race is, of course, the circuit is defined as the white lines or the curbs, and you're allowed to go up to or onto the white lines and the curbs, but any further and you'll be drawing attention to yourself in terms of the marshals and stewards, and do that too many times, you could be getting a penalty. We saw that last time out for the couple of the drives at Silverstone, and again here, not so much tarmac as Silverstone, but you can still, you see in the various areas there's some green painted tarmac, which is of course used to stop ruts forming when the drivers run over the edge of the circuit. So it's of course a safety, but it's not to be used by the drivers or systematically, should we say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, like I say, track limit excursions around here, it's not particularly as through the roof as you do get at somewhere like Silverstone, but up here at McGlade you can run wide a little bit, like you say, out onto that green tar, but you can kind of get a little bit on the exit of T1. Again, the old hairpin being the big one cutting the inside. Yeah, for the Foggy, yes, you can kind of do it, but again, those serrated curves will probably send you to the moon. But I will say, the resurfacing job, you point this out earlier, that resurfacing job, I've been to Donington more than any other circuit in the UK, and it does look wildly different.
Yeah, well, the circuit layout itself is absolutely no different. The cambers and undulations are no different. However, the whole circuit has been resurfaced over the winter, and apparently it's a bit more of a high grip surface, as we're looking at our leader Tom Mills, who's actually closing the gap once again, I think. Yeah, fastest lap of the race from Colin Queen. Has actually got that gap down to half a second now. He was fastest in the first sector of anyone, fastest in the second sector of anyone, nearly fastest in the final sector, but actually fastest in the final sector was Cooper Webster.
Yeah, this is the, you can see everyone kind of funneling their way through the first corner all the way back down to Clifford, who's all effectively in one train. Again, beautiful seeing them coming down through the Craner curves, through the old hairpin. Tom Mills, he knows how to get races won, he knows how to get it done. He has won plenty of races in his GB4 career, looking to tick off yet another one, but he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders with 10 minutes left to go in the race. Again, the expected race laps, we'd be talking about 6 from here, or maybe even 5 from here. There's plenty of time to get a move done. It's just about timing it right. And for Queen, who's the inexperienced one in this, how do you time it right against a driver like Tom Mills? I'm sure he's been coached.
Well, Tom Mills, of course, we know has got that second-year experience, the only second-year driver this year in the GB4 Championship, and he's been putting that experience to good use, having basically got pole position in every race so far up to this point, and won a lot of them. But Colin Queen, for the Fortec team, of course, won the championship last year with Nick Taylor. We know that car's fast. Colin Queen has been proving that he's got the speed as well, and he's actually applying the pressure once again onto the back of Tom Mills. You can overtake her on Donington Park.
Absolutely.
We're coming into Redgate, the first corner. He's not close enough this time, but that is potentially the main overtaking opportunity. It's very wide entry there. You can also go around the outside as well if the driver in front, Tom Mills, would go defensive. But you can also overtake potentially into the old hairpin. It's more of an opportunistic move there. McLean's is definitely an opportunity, not really Coppice, but then down into the Fogarty S. We've got a replay going through the Fogarty S here. You can see someone's been through and pulled some gravel on the circuit. And you can see those curbs that you were talking about there, Lewis.
Yeah, you can indeed. Obviously, the yellow ones that do get wrestled over quite a bit. Then the blue ones that are on the inside are a little bit higher. They're a little bit more aggressive. I've got to say, I mean, talking about the corners to overtake, obviously you've got the first corner, which is Redgate. You've got that one they've come through there at McLean's. Coppice, you know, particularly on the exit, you could get it done. And then you've got the Melbourne hairpin, which is the penultimate corner, and then Goddard, you can get moves done. If you are brave, you can do it into the old hairpin, or you can do it into the Fogarty S if you're brave. We have seen it done, but it requires skill. It does require, you know, bravery and a bit of gumption, but it requires preparation.
Gumption. That's a good word, Lewis. But yes,
because if you want to make a move into the Fogarty S, you've got to set it up. Probably even before Coppice, you've got to set up at McLean's, get them defensive into Coppice, so they're slower out of Coppice, they're slower onto the Starkey straight, they're slower, and that's where you make the move.
Well, to be honest, the drivers at the front of this field, they're all racing so close, and the lap times, even the sectors, you know, we're looking at thousands between the sectors. It's always set up 2 or 3 corners before. Very rarely are you just driving and think, I'm going to send it up the inside now. Here we go, lovely slow-mo shot through the Fogarty S. Seeing Colin Queen going slightly wide. They're actually humpering his exit. Cooper Webster with a big swapper through there. It's quite bumpy through that chicane, even regardless of the curbs. But yeah, you are almost always setting a move up 2 or 3 corners before. If you see a driver in front, for example, Colin Queen will be studying the back of Tom Mills' car. He'll know if he's made a mistake, probably almost before Tom Mills has, if he's gone a bit wide, if he's had a bit of wheel spin, and he'll be thinking, right, he's made a mistake here. For example, if he made a mistake on the exit of Redgate, you're thinking, right, I can be close down to the old hairpin. If I can force him to defensive, then that will mean I'll have a bad exit out of the old hairpin, and then I can get out the inside of McLean's. But obviously, the speed at which that thought goes through your brain is it all happens in half a second while you're driving. You don't, you know, even quicker than I've just explained it. But also, you think that some of the places around here that are obvious overtaking opportunities, like for example the Melbourne hairpin, it's very much a hairpin, a long braking zone, but it's actually downhill and tightens on, you almost go for a late apex. So to send it at the inside, it's so easy to just snatch a brake or brake half a car length too late, and then just got straight back on the exit and then lose you both time, and then they could both come under pressure from that man we're looking at right now, Cooper Webster in the Evans GP car. He's been setting some fast times. He's actually got the fastest lap of the race that last time out with a 27.6, only a 10th faster than both Mills and Queen in first and second. But yeah, this group is definitely coming together.
Yeah, certainly so. Like, there is going to be some forward battle. I have noticed that McNeely's dropped off the back of Fairbairn, so that gap's gone out to over 1.1 seconds. I think McNeely might have overdone the tyres slightly. Is just getting that judgment right. You can kind of see them going into turn one, as we just saw there, how they get up to the exit of the pit lane. They wait for those bollards, the little things that stick up, to stop, and then they sweep into the exit of pit lane and then throw it through. I love it. I think it looks so good. I do remember GB3 last year in the first visit to Donington, quite a few front wings being lost.
I think it was David Morales potentially,
yeah,
or was it?
So.
It was one of the Arden VRD cars. Anyway, that was besides the point, but those bollards, of course, are there to stop people nicking too much into the pit exit, because if you go over there too early, then someone coming out of the pits might get an innocent swipe. But yeah, those drivers, they'll be darting into the pit exit because it opens up the entry to the corner and gives them a shallower angle around turn one, because of course, the less degrees you have to turn through, the less you have to slow the car down.
And it looks cool as.
It does look cool as, but I think the drivers are less worried about their coolness and more worried about the speed, because I think the coolness kind of comes from the speed, doesn't it, Lewis?
Yeah, too right. We'll see if Queen can make his way through at the moment. I know he'll be thinking about what he's being told by his coach. The entirety of the Fortec machine in GB4, they're all coached by Nicholas Taylor, the GB4 champion of 2022, sorting some things out. He's been driving out in Europe and stuff like that. I mean, he's been telling me about some of his plans. We'll keep our fingers crossed for Nick Taylor. He's a fantastic young talent, and he's now pushing that onto to other drivers as well, and showing how quick Colin Queen can be. Looking like there was a bit of pressure on Tom Mills' shoulders there going into the hairpin at the Melbourne Loop, because he was slipping and sliding on the brakes just a touch, maybe overcooking the rear tyres ever so slightly. And between the three of these, they are close, but right now there's just not enough separating them.
Just too big of a gap for Queen to mount a move, and Tom Mills is doing exactly what he needs to. He's driving fast enough and clean enough and consistently enough that he's not making any mistakes. We've got a replay here. It looks like a car off. That is one of the Fortec cars. That's Kulkarni in the blue highlights, clearly having a spin from further down the field. That was on the exit of McLean's. Easily done. We mentioned that earlier on, that it falls away at the exit. But going back to Tom Mills at the lead of the race, he's doing exactly what he needs to, not making any mistakes, just banging in the lap times, and as long as he doesn't make a mistake, it's going to be hard for Queen to get an overlap.
How much, even in this scenario, right, you're under pressure from the car behind, and obviously you're trying to drive as fast as you can, you're slipping, you're sliding your way through like we're just seeing there. We'll see if there's going to be a move here from Colin Queen, if he's going to look down the inside of that number 21, but no, the 62 Fortec machine is going to stay in that second position. How much of your mindset right now, with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left to go, it could be 3 laps left to go in this race based on the time. They're going to cross it with the on the end of the penultimate lap, pretty close. How much is your mindset on tyres right now? You've got 8 tyres to get through 4 races this weekend.
Yeah, you can see Tom Mills is actually looking in the mirrors now, I think doing a bit of swerving. This is the most pressure he's been under. The gap now at less than 4 tenths, the closest it's been since the start of the race. But you mentioned about tyres, they've all, in this race, from the first race from Silverstone that has been moved to today, they've got 2 new tyres. So most of the drivers, I believe, took 4 new tyres at the front of the field from what I could see on the grid. But they're definitely thinking, right, I still do have to use these tyres by the end of the weekend. However, it's one of those things that if you've got a good result, like Tom Mills here will not really be thinking about tyres, because you'd rather have a bird in the hand is better than 2 in the bush, as they say. You'd rather have a win on the board and then think, oh, I'll deal with my tyres later, than think, you know what, I'll save my tyres and then potentially come under more pressure, and then he might go down 2 places with Cooper Webster's there. Someone off at the old hairpin, that is Alva, Ruhan Alva, and you can see him gesticulating to himself, having made a mistake. Let's have a look on the entry here. So Alva just missing the apex slightly and then getting onto the marbles and then taking a bumpy trip through the gravel and grass. Hopefully no damage to the suspension of that car.
Looks like the gap at the front is ever so slightly opened out.
But
from Queen to Mills.
But look at this first sector from Cooper Webster. Once again, he's flying. He was really catching up there in the final moments, going through the foggy. Yes, it's an absolute three-way duel between a driver, which is in Tom Mills, who's won 4 races in GB4. You've got Colin Queen and Cooper Webster behind, who both have a handful of podiums apiece, both of them getting 2. Colin Queen with a slightly better result and a 2nd place in the previous round at Silverstone in what should have been the 2nd race of the weekend, what ended up being the 1st race of the weekend. 1 minute and 40 seconds left. This is the penultimate lap of this race. There is still plenty of time. You don't want to overdo it. But do they know it's the penultimate lap of the race? It's such a good question, because like, with it being a timed race...
Yeah. It's hard to work out, because as the drivers, they don't have a lap count, they don't have a timer in their car. They'll just probably eventually
race to see the checker flag.
Yeah, basically race to see the checker flag, but the teams will be doing the estimation for them, and there's no direct team to driver communication via use of radios. The only communication back to shore, as it were, is via the pit boards, which will be hung over the pit wall. They'll be giving the estimated number of laps. This looks like it is going to be the penultimate lap. I'm sure Tom Mills would have been told that, and so will Colin Queen. So if anything's going to happen, it's going to happen soon. But it looks like Tom Mills actually had a pretty good first couple of sectors, and the gap's opened out to an enormous 4.5 tenths, I reckon.
That's huge.
But Cooper Webster is still very much there, ready to pick up any pieces if Colin Queen does throw it up the inside.
Yeah, for Tom Mills, it's not looking crazy bad, because 2nd in the championship, Liam McNeely back in 5th position. 3rd in the championship, Harry Reynolds, who's back in 6th position. Colin Queen is in 4th position. Cooper Webster is in 6th position in the championship. So he's battling with people that are quite significantly further down in the championship than where he is. So in ideal, it's a fairly ideal scenario for the number 21 KMR Sport car then. So across the line here at Donington, just 2.5 miles left to go in the opening race of a 4-race spectacular weekend here in Donington Park, with beautiful weather around. Can Tom Mills hold on? At the moment, he has done everything perfectly through the race thus far. He's not put a single foot wrong, but neither's Colin Queen and neither has Cooper Webster.
Yeah, such is the consistency of their laps that Tom Mills' last lap equalled his own personal best lap of the race to the thousandth of a second. You know, that sort of consistency is what is managing to keep him ahead of Colin Queen, because if Tom Mills made a mistake that cost him 1.5, 2 tenths of a second, which is not much at all, Colin would be right there. But as it stands, I don't think Colin's going to be quite close enough if Tom Mills can get through this final sector of the lap without a mistake. It's been an excellent drive from all 3 of them. Not a huge amount's happened, but it's setting up for a lovely and tasty weekend of racing, because I don't back that all 3 of these can do a whole race weekend without even a small mistake.
And then obviously for the next few races this weekend, we do have Earthman in. That is unfortunately Kilcarney, who's had a big issue coming off through the old hairpin. That would end the race regardless. Thankfully, we'll be able to end this one under green flag racing between these 3. Tom Mills goes out a little bit wide coming through the Melbourne hairpin as they head up towards Goddard's in that final corner. I don't believe that Fortec car behind is close enough to try anything. It would have to be a mistake from Tom Mills, but he's too focused. Darts it into the apex, hooks it out through the final corner, and round 4 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, goes the way of KMR Sport, and it is a 5th victory in GB4 for Tom Mills as he beats out the likes of Colin Queen and Cooper Webster in a fantastic drive. Fairbairn will cross the line in 4th place with Smith. That actually would be, sorry, I think it would be McNeely just having a bit in 5th position there, Reynolds, and then Smith. Not sure what's happened there. Is there penalties, post-race time penalties?
It looks like that McNeely potentially has. Yeah, McNeely has a 5-second time penalty, as does Reynolds and Kilcarney, who unfortunately hasn't finished the race anyway. But a dominant victory, I say dominant, a very solid victory there for Tom Mills, not putting a foot wrong. Colin Queen pushed him. I don't think he was ever more than a second behind, and Cooper Webster will be very, very happy with, of course, a 3rd place, not far off, with the fastest lap of the race as well. It's also good to see 3 different teams in the top 3 places and 4 different teams represented in the top 5 positions.
Yeah, I've got to say, by the way, for Sid Smith, that is a personal best result. Obviously matching the 3rd race at Alton Park. And I felt bad for Sid Smith at the previous round, as we can see Kilcarney here. We'll take a look at the incident as he comes through, out way too wide going into the old hairpin, way too fast in as well, and just dropped the rear end. Easily done.
Yeah, I think he was just pushing a bit hard. He'd made a mistake earlier on in the race, which cost him time, and he's probably just a bit frustrated with the mistake he made earlier on and ended up pushing a bit too hard. So, yeah, a good race. Unfortunate for Kilcarney to finish off in the gravel, but no, great race throughout the field. And again, those time penalties actually hampering a few of the drivers, with McNeely losing out on top 5, his top 5 finish.
Yeah, and McNeely being second in the championship, that is a big deal. He will lose second in the champion. No, because Reynolds was the other one who was third in the championship. We got it. They might lose out to Colin Queen, who was fourth in the championship and was 11 points behind coming into it. So they will most likely lose out to him. But they're certainly going to lose some ground in the run-in for second in the championship. But they're obviously trying to focus on how to beat Tom Mills. But right now, he's a difficult man to beat, and the timesheets this weekend. I agree with what Piers you were saying about the fact of we're in for a barnstorming weekend with the top 3 with Mills, Queen and Webster, Irfan as well in for the next few races. I think we have got an absolute treat here for the weekend. Always love a special weekend when we get to go and do something slightly different, like 4 races. It's fantastic fun, that is for sure. Tom Mills will pull into a spot which he's very much used to now. Like I said, it's his 5th win overall. It's his 3rd win of the year, and he does get to start from another pole position in the race later on today. So it's all looking on the up. Although Queen is giving him a very good run for his money in the race later on today. Colin Queen, I do believe, will be starting from 2nd position. He certainly will. It'll be his 3rd consecutive second position in qualifying, and then gets to start from pole position in the first race tomorrow, will Colin Queen. So he's being pressured quite a bit by Tom Mills. As you can see, Cooper Webster there on the right hand side. He was sat looking at the top 2 for the entirety of that race, but does get to pick up yet another podium for the Evans Grand Prix team, who for the next race as well, they actually get another driver out in action as they will enter as a 3-car team. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit as we'll head down to Jon Jackson.
Yeah, here just watching Tom Mills celebrating with the rest of the KMR Sport team. So Tom, we heard about all the issues you've had so far this weekend, but still you've gone out there, you've managed to keep your head in the game, and you've managed to fend off an excellent drive from Colin.
Yeah, Colin was really fast. He was happy under pressure the whole race. I think he was a bit quicker than me, but on the races you're not fast, you've still got to win them. So yeah, I tried my best, stayed out front with no mistakes, and yeah, just a massive thanks to all my team. There's been so much work. We've got a different engine, bad housing, push rod broke in qualifying. It's been a really tough weekend so far, but yeah, good starting with a win.
And also it's your 3rd win of the season so far, in a season where you were only really going to do maybe the first round. We're already here, and technically this is the 2nd round, if that makes sense, but we are here at the 3rd round. And championship leader, you can't really want more.
No, it's been a dream start to the season, really. Yeah, winning 3 races. Hoping to repeat it again this afternoon from pole again, but yeah, it's hard. I've got 2 fast chargers right on my heels.
Well, the grid's exactly the same, so it's going to be a bit of a rerun. But Tom Mills with KMR Sport, congratulations. We'll let Tom go and celebrate with the rest of his team. We'll go and see Colin Queen. Colin, we heard from you earlier in the show about enjoying driving around this track at Donington, and that was certainly an epic drive. And I mean, Tom just kept you behind him.
Yeah, no, Tom didn't make one mistake that race. It was good on him. He deserved that. But yeah, no, we definitely have really good pace. I think we're the strongest out there. Just couldn't make anything work. It's good defending from him as getting the aero wash, but yeah.
Just said to Tom there that the grid for the technically the first race at Donington this weekend, coming up later on today, exactly the same as this final 3 here. Do you think that you'll do something slightly differently to maybe get past Tom this time?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely have a shot at winning this next race. It's all about getting a good launch off the line, and hopefully just getting the lead by lap 1 or so. But yeah, no, it's a good. It was a good race, good drive from me. I tried my best, but just couldn't make it work out.
Yeah, fantastic drive. Colin Queen there with Forte. We'll let you go and get your trophy as well, and we'll come over here and see Cooper Webster, who was actually very, very quick towards the end there. I think he got the fastest lap. I think you maybe got the fastest lap there. While these two were battling it out at the front, actually you were making up some ground there, and maybe a few more laps you'd have been involved in the battle for the race win.
Yeah, fast lap's good. I probably would have had an even faster lap if I used the track limits like they were. So I think I probably won that race if the officials do the right thing and penalise the track limits for those two, because they went off many more times than I did. But yeah, I think I drove a good race, stayed within track limits, and did it properly.
Is that something that you want Evans GP to maybe talk to the marshals about?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we spoken in driver's briefing that, you know, track limits, you get this many chances and that's it. So I followed that. And if they don't penalise the front two, I think that's unfair.
Yeah, well look, it's a great drive anyway, and this is the final 3 here is the first 3 for the next race. So I'm guessing that you'll be looking to get a great start and keep up the good work this weekend.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, we were close, just a little bit more. It is hard to follow. But yeah, still 2 more races to have some more fun.
Excellent stuff. We'll let you go and get your trophy. Cooper Webster there with Evans GP. And, you know, I mean, we've seen there 3 drivers putting in an exceptional performance. As Colin just said there, Tom Mills didn't put a step wrong, and Colin Queen behind him didn't either. So the next race is going to be really, really exciting to see what happens between, in particular, these 3 drivers here, because Cooper Webster really had the pace there with the fastest lap in that race. So, you know, I feel like he can really be involved in the battle for the race win there. But that was the first race from Silverstone. Just to make sure you're clear with this, we will have the first race from Donington coming up a little bit later after the podium and after we chat to some more of the drivers. That will be at around about 5:20. So make sure you're just aware of that, because the race times can change slightly. So I think if you tune in at 5:20, exactly where you're watching right now, that'll give you enough time to make sure that any changes, you don't miss any of the action. There looks like they're ready now for the podium. So Lewis McGlade will talk you through it.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, very interesting to hear there from Cooper Webster, who was not particularly pleased about the driving of the 2 ahead of him, and potentially thinking that there might be some repercussions post-race. We did see some post-race penalties, well, rather it was during the race, for McNeely, for Reynolds and for Kulkarni, so we'll have to wait and see if there's anything for Queen and Mills. Well, behind them was Cooper Webster, who takes his 3rd podium, his third place finish of 2023 as well. Colin Queen gave Tom Mills a good run for his money all the way through the race, but unfortunately comes up 1 position short with another 2nd place position matching his personal best results in GB4. And as much as he'll start from 2nd today, the next race he'll start from will be from pole off lap first thing tomorrow morning. Up onto the top step of the podium for the 3rd time this season, for the 5th time in his GB4 career, it is Tom Mills taking yet another victory and pulling away in the championship once again, whilst his championship rivals, Liam McNeely, Harry Reynolds, they had an average day, let's put it that way, dropping down the order with penalties. They were 2nd and 3rd in the championship. Colin Queen might be working his way up. Cooper Webster might be working his way up and somewhere into the mix after a retirement in the 3rd race at Silverstone. Tom Mills being dragged off to one side by Mark Werrell, ready for an interview. And like I say, curious to see what's going to happen post-race, whether there are going to be, whether there is going to be any penalties and such. We'll have to wait and see. Either way, we're going to go to highlights of round 4. And that race down towards the 1st corner, he was fending off Colin Queen. Fantastic. A little bit off of the race start. Out wide, Jack Clifford went running back onto the race circuit behind the likes of Thomas Lee. The race down towards the old hairpin for the first time saw Tom Mills taking the defensive line from Colin Queen, who was applying a lot of pressure early doors. And then they were running up towards the likes of McLean's and Coppers. Queen was all over the rear end. At the end of the 1st lap, though, there was drama in the background. Harry Reynolds and Sid Smith making a battle for what was 5th position, 6th position on the road. And the race towards Redgate saw them once again going side by side. Fairbairn would drop back behind Liam McNeely and get a penalty post-race for track limit excursions, making his way through, going up into the Fogarty-S. And then this, unfortunately, for the likes of Albert, running out wide. Kulkarni would also have some problems through this portion of the circuit late on, as Tom Mills was defending hard to keep the number 62 Vortec machine of Colin Queen behind. Cooper Webster was sat off the rear end thinking about where he could make his opportunity into the mix in his Evans Grand Prix car, but was unable to find anything through. A big snap going through for Kulkarni going into the old hairpin on the final lap of the race, and into that final corner Tom Mills would head his way through and take his 3rd victory of the season for the KMR Sport team, the championship leader, ahead of Colin Queen and Cooper Webster. Once again, a brilliant drive for Tom Mills, taking another victory, showing us how it is done, and once again extending a little bit on his championship lead. We'll take a look at very provisional results of the race in just a second's time, but obviously Tom Mills taking that victory ahead of Colin Queen and Cooper Webster, a pair of them racking up yet more podiums ahead of Fairbairn and Smith. Smith getting his personal best result, a joint personal best best result from his season. McNeely, Burgoyne Jr., Clifford, Reynolds and Alva rounding out the top 10, with Kulkarni, Lee and Hotchin rounding out the field. Again, a dramatic start to the day for some of these drivers. We do have another race today, obviously counter to how we'd normally run things with GB4, but we'll have a race coming up at its scheduled time is 5:45 later on today. But we'll have to head down to Piers, who I believe has Sid Smith.
Motorsport team. Sid, that was a pretty strong result for you. I believe 6th on the road, but 5th after, unfortunately, your teammate Liam got a track limits penalty. Just talk to us about your race.
Well, yeah, it was obviously starting 8th, which was from Silverstone, which we thought did an alright job, but we felt like we could have gone faster and could have been up the order. So had a good start. I reckon it wasn't my best, but definitely wasn't my worst. And it was having a good fight with, I believe, Reynolds and McNeely on the first opening laps, and that was good fun. Be out there having a good battle, and unfortunately backed off from them a bit, but that didn't stop from Kulkarni being right behind me and having a good battle with him. I believe unfortunately he went off old hairpin, I didn't mind too much because it was a lot of pressure behind. He was doing well, but yeah, I'm super happy with that. It's I think it's my best result from, well, not a reverse grid, so I can't complain at all, and I'm happy with that result. Yeah.
You mentioned at the start there that you feel like you've made a bit of a step forward since Silverstone. Where do you reckon the step forward in pace has come from?
Yeah, well, I always think we've had the pace. I just don't think we've had the right opportunity to properly show it yet, and little things have got in the way that haven't put us where we ideally would want to be. But I feel as though now we're really starting to get into rhythm. I'm starting to get used to the car. Obviously, it's a big jump from Fiesta I did last year and a bit of Janessa. But yeah, I'm just starting to get into rhythm of things really, and I'm really enjoying it. And the results are starting to show now, so I'm a bit happier about it all.
3 more races at Donington this weekend now, so looking forward to the weekend ahead?
Well, yeah, I can't wait. It's I wasn't sure about how close it'd be to actually race around here, but the racing's close is good fun, and I actually can't bring on the last 3 now, because I think we stand a good chance, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it, see what we can do.
Podium?
Yeah, that's the aims.
Brilliant, thanks very much, Sid. We'll grab Ruhan Alva for the Forte Motorsport team. Ruhan, it looked like you had a pretty, as we see a jet going overhead, I'll just wait for them to pass so you can hear it properly. It was a pretty good fun race. There was a lot of jostling, especially at the start of the race. Just talk to us about, from the driver's seat, how it was for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really fun race. I messed it up at the end, but till then it was a good fight. We had good pace, we were strong, made a few good moves, and I was catching up to Smith, and I know that we definitely had the pace to pass him and maybe catch Harry in front. But I was just not able to put it together and kept losing there. I kept making mistakes, and then I made a big mistake and ended up in the gravel, which cost me quite a bit. But I think we have good pace for later on this weekend.
Yes, of course. We just mentioned with Sid, we've still got 3 more races this weekend. Of course, this one was carried over from Silverstone. Would you have rather this race at Silverstone, or would you rather it here?
It's a tough question. Probably, it's a fun track, but Silverstone's easier to pass, so probably that, because we had a bad quali over there.
And we've seen, of course, your teammate Colin had a very good, strong result right on the back of Tom Mills for 2nd place. It looked like you're coming together, and you 3 are working well as a team to increase your pace, all 3 of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good relationship between all the drivers of the team. We're all really close, we get along well, and we help each other out whenever we can.
Brilliant, well, great to chat to you. Thanks very much, Ruhan. We'll grab Harry Burgoyne Jr. Harry, of course, we saw you started somewhere sort of towards the back of the grid because your qualifying at Silverstone wasn't potentially the strongest, but it looks like you've had some good pace this weekend. Where do you reckon the step forward has come from?
I think just more time in the car, that's all we kind of need, and just good qualifying, that would help us even more, but it's been an alright weekend so far.
You said it's coming from time in the car. We know you've got a really strong and successful karting career. Have you managed to get in the car between Silverstone a few weeks ago and today?
No.
So it's literally just time on track, time racing. And what do you feel like you're more comfortable in that's allowed you to sort of unlock some of this pace?
I don't know really. I think it's me just trusting the car, trusting myself, and just everything.
And what do you find the biggest differences between driving karts and these cars have been for you so far at this still fairly early stage in the season?
It's just like a bigger thing to drive. It's much more harder to control if it goes on a slide or something.
Brilliant. Well, good luck in the rest of the race this weekend. Still 3 more to go. And we've got Jeremy Fairbairn as well. Jeremy, a strong race for you. That was would you say that was a good race for you?
Yeah, P4 wasn't exactly the result we were going for, but, we'll take it. Good points.
Good points, and of course, Tom Mills right at the front. We know he's very experienced, and of course, managed to win the race. A great job from the team. Do you think the team are moving forward? It seems like you're getting more and more settled with the car as a whole group.
Yeah, absolutely. The team's doing great. Very happy with them. just unfortunately didn't have the pace for the top 3 today, but we'll just get that little last bit of time that we can find and we'll be there.
Where do you reckon that time is? Do you know where you can find it?
A little bit in the setup, a little bit driving.
When you talk to us about the driving, give us a bit more for the viewers at home. What could you do differently?
I tend to push the car a little too hard. I tend to overdrive sometimes, which I can calm down on. This car doesn't like to be overdriven, as many know, but a little bit with the setup as well.
And what about driving this car, the GB4 car at Donington Park? It's another fast circuit, but quite different in its characteristics to Silverstone.
Yeah, very hilly, very fast track for sure. It's a lot of fun.
And what's the key to getting a good lap time around here?
Just keep your head down, don't overdrive, and get the exits, prioritize the exits.
Prioritise the exits. Well, still 3 more races, so we'll look forward to seeing how you get on. And we've also got a teammate, Jack Clifford, as well. Jack, we spoke to you briefly before the race, I believe. That was a bit tough one. We saw you had a little bit of an excursion on the first lap. Talk to us about what happened there.
Yeah, well, it all started at the start. So when we pull first gear, when the boards come out and the lights come on, when the clutch was on the floor, because of the heat today, the clutch started to take up. And of course, when the throttle is flat on the floor for the start, it was rolling off the box, and to avoid a penalty, hit the brakes and then went back to full throttle, and that made the start really, really slow. And then because the warm-up lap was so grippy, I tried to compensate for the bad start breaking into turn 1 and just overcooked it.
Hey, it's one of those, and part of the learning experience. We spoke to your dad, and the reason you came over here, I remember him saying, was the fact that you want to learn so much. Feels like you're learning a lot in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, it's the steepest learning curve over here. So at least we get 1 more race today, which is good. Move up the grid a little bit more, but yeah, that race is in the past now. I know what happened, so we'll push for the next one.
Definitely in the past, of course. You learn from all your mistakes. What are you looking forward to for the rest of this weekend?
Seeing our progress, how we develop from race to race to race. Now that we've got 3 races left, keen to see how much I develop from here now and then Sunday night.
Of course. Well, Jack, thank you so much. Not Jack. Yes, Jack. I'll get some confused. So many names. Thank you so much for chatting to us. We'll catch up with you later on. We'll see how you
remember my name?
No. Is it Jack Johnson?
Jack Johnson, yeah. We got Lucas McGlade also on commentary as well. You know what? I don't think we maybe saw as many overtakes as we're maybe used to in GB4, but I think given how hard Colin was pushing Tom Mills there, that was, you know, a pretty entertaining race, because if Tom Mills made 1 mistake, I feel like Colin Queen would have had him.
We mentioned that in the comms box, John, exactly what you just said. It's so close at the front. I mean, every single sector of every single lap, they were lapping within, you know, not even tenths, it was hundredths of a second. And, you know, Colin Queen, it shows how close it is when you can get within 3 tenths and you still can't make a move. But we heard from a couple of the drivers just then, the dirty air, the small amount of aerodynamics they've got for the front wings, it means that, you know, getting that last tenth or so is so difficult unless the driver in front makes a mistake. But, you know, they're all driving at such a high level that it's hard to do. But I'm definitely thinking that as the weekend goes on, everyone will get a bit more confident, and then some moves will come out.
Now, you won't have heard this because it was over on the in the Parc Ferme area, but Cooper Webster not very happy at all with the first 2 drivers saying that they were exceeding track limits. As a driver yourself, did you see anything on the coverage that you felt was maybe pushing it a bit too far? Because there were some penalties. I know Liam nearly got a penalty for track limits.
Yeah, of course, the penalties will only come in from what is called, and the marshals do as best they can to call out any drivers exceeding track limits. There are some sensors, I believe, out here at Donington Park, so if you run wide in certain corners, I believe Redgate, I think McLean's as well, they have some sensors. If you drive over it, a picture will get taken. So it depends where you do it. But it's also one of those where there's actually been a bulletin released to all MSUK race licence holders just in the last week that the regulations will change as of the 1st of June, which means that no longer can you put the outside edge of your tyre over the white line in the curb. From the 1st of June, it will be you have to be on the curb, you can't go over.
Got you.
So that's not enforced yet, so you're still allowed to just strip the outside of your wheel over the curb. But if you are running wide, it's a risky strategy, because yes, you might get away with it, but you might also get a penalty, as we've seen from some of the drivers. So the wind's just picking up here all of a sudden out of nowhere.
I was going to say, it's going to be interesting for our next race. Of course, the next race is the first race of the Donington weekend, which means we've got 3 more this weekend, 2 tomorrow, this one later on today. 5:20 is the time that I recommend you tune in and make sure the stream is ready for you so you don't miss any of the action. I know we've got a lot of international viewers. Obviously, that is UK time, so if you're in Australia or whatever, that's going to be a very early morning. If you're over in the States watching Colin Queen, it might be quite a nice early morning if you're watching any of our American drivers, Jeremy Fairbairn as well. But yes, 5:20 is the time to tune back in. But there we go, another win for Tom Mills in the GB4 Championship. 3 wins for him. He extends his lead at the top of the championship, but Colin Queen is pushing him all the way. We'll see you at 5:20.